Hi guys. Hi, my name is Bukumi Shedipoy. I'm here on behalf of the Empowered Nation. And I don't know if you guys saw my promotion I did on the video, but here today's topic is It Takes Two concept. And we're literally talking about relationships, Christianity, is there a way we can be woke in our generation? Like everything that comes with love, relationship, and Christianity. Basically, Jesus, God, all of that stuff. So I'm just going to briefly talk about the Empowered Nation. The Empowered Nation is under the umbrella of the Center of Life Church. It's the youth part of church, the woke generation people, the millennials. So the Empowered Nation, what we believe in is majorly empowering our youthful generation for dominance. We want to make sure that we are dominating the world. A lot of things are going on out there, so we have to come through for God. So our mission is to build a community of younger adults, empower ourselves, enlighten ourselves towards achieving a lot of things. And one of the ways we're doing that is by creating different initiatives. And one of the initiatives is this, It Takes Two. So we know that this is one of the hot topics in our time. And we decided that, okay, let's hear what people have to say. Like our older generations, they don't get it like we get it. And they try to do their thing and they are two different things. But anyways, make sure you follow us on our social media platforms, on Instagram, on Facebook, and on YouTube. It's The Empowered Nation, the letter D, Empowered Nation. So once again, The Empowered Nation on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. So I have two amazing guests today. I'm really excited to connect with them. I'm just going to let you know who they are. So I have Omotayo Adiola, and I also have Jean Jeffrey Momplacer. So I'm just going to briefly talk about them so you guys can know who you're going to connect with. And these are like woke people because I know Omotayo. I'm just going to briefly talk about who Omotayo is. So Omotayo Adiola is a firecatcher. Like the first time I came across her page on Instagram, I was like, yeah, I'm going to definitely follow her. But she is a light that helps others find their light. She's a writer, producer, a content creator, and has experience everywhere in TV, radio, advertising, fashion, education. She's there. Let's just leave it at that. She's there. So, but also she also studied English at the University of Lagos and also has a master's in writing from University of Warwick. Yeah, it's not beans. It's not beans. And I wish she bagged another distinction. It's not beans again. So, anyways, in February 2020, she published her first book, How to Be Single. So let's give it up for Adiola Omotayo. Also on our screen, we have John Momplacer. Yeah, let that name sink in, not your regular. He's a sought after inspirational speaker, licensed, ordained preacher, and also an author, and also a social media influencer. He's the founder of John Momplacer LLC, and which is Love, Faith, and Grace Charities. His passion is inspiring good men to maximize their potentials and become great kings. His message has also ignited hope and caused many women to prepare and position themselves for a king. So as a queen, you have to get ready for a king. And also, John is blessed with two amazing princesses to become queens, and they call him daddy, so which is amazing. So they're with me right now. I'm really excited to talk to them to get to know what they think about relationships, love, and Christianity. It's how would I say? It's a very touchy topic in our generation, with the fact that now in our generation we don't have time for things. We want to go from one to another. It's not like how things go from on the love and relationship part. There is the we're on to the next, and then there's the Christian. So it's like you're adding a lot of things to one, and it's a lot. But we have some topics to go over. I would want them to introduce themselves, or do you want to say anything? So I'll give the floor to Omotayo. Is there anything you want to say before we start?
Hi, thank you so much for having me here. My book called How to Be Single is literally my life. I feel like that's the life I've lived for the last 10 years. But the only thing I want to just say before we go on is that the way I define singleness is being whole. So you know how like there's a single broomstick. A single broomstick cannot sweep anything, but then there's a single fruit, which is a whole fruit, which has all the nutrients it needs, right? So most of the time when we're single, we see ourselves as like single broomsticks that are useless, but we should see ourselves as whole fruits that have everything we need inside of us. And so that's the perspective that I come from. That even while you're waiting to be in a relationship, be aware that you are whole and focus on kind of like fulfilling that wholeness so that you are not so focused on a lack because you are perfect and complete, lacking nothing. And
Yes.
whoever you're going to meet, which I think is a good thing, you know, you should desire a relationship if you want to. Whoever you're going to meet is going to be kind of an addition to that, but not the person isn't coming to complete. So that's just what I know.
Yes, thank you so much for that. I'm going to give it out to John. Is there anything you want to say?
Again, I'm John Montplaisir. I am so privileged and honored that I could share this time, this space here with all of you. Thank you for the opportunity. I am anticipating this dialogue. I think we're going to have a great conversation that I think it's so necessary. I believe there are many who are listening and watching uh, who are seeking answers, who may be baffled, confused about certain things, especially as it pertains to both their faith as well as their romantic, their love life, or their lack thereof. And so, I want to see if I could help be a guide to help navigate, and we're all on this journey together. And so, I hope they can receive some insights from what is said today and glean from our thought process and our minds. And so I'm just anticipating. I can't wait. I just
Yeah,
can't wait for
we
tonight.
can definitely wait for what you have to offer. So we're just going to dive right in. The first topic today is there a Christian way to approach a love interest? I'm going to give it up to ladies first. So I'm going to give it to Omotayo. What do you think? Is there like a Christian way to approach a love interest for all those Christian brothers and sisters
I
out there?
mean, so of course there is, but anyone who's had a relationship with God for like a real relationship with God for like 10 seconds knows that everybody's path is different. Like there were no two people in the Bible who had exactly the same instructions. So there cannot be, it's not like, so yeah, go and pray and then go and, but some people don't pray first. Some people meet the person first and then feel a connection and then pray after. Some people don't need to kneel down and pray because they can hear God on the spot. Some people have a friendship first and then it grows into something else. So I think that the only real Christian way is to make sure that you are right with God and that you have a relationship with God. Therefore, you are carrying God into every situation anyway. And so that's the Christian way to approach life.
I love it.
Okay. So just to understand, you guys, don't jump the gun. Like put God first, then whoever it is, not whoever it is, then
So
God.
literally, in fact, the thing is, you cannot be guided by rules and regulations from somebody
Yeah.
who is outside of your relationship with God. So you have that relationship with God first. So does God talk to you in whispers? Does God talk to you when you pray? Like how does God lead you in other things that you do? Is likely to be similar. Like the way your friend talks to you when she's calling for gist, you already know that she's calling to gist if she has something to say. Because you have that relationship, if she's calling to tell you something important, you will be able to tell when it's something important. So if you already have a relationship with God, when you like someone or when you're interested in someone, you also have that relationship where you can go to God and be like, ah, God, how far? You know, what should I do? Should I start this? Should I not start this? Because you're already connected. And so there's no new way. God isn't going to like invent a new way for you. He's just going to kind of continue off the back of the relationship that you already have.
Okay. So John, what do you have to say? Let's hear it from
Well,
the other
I
side.
think she hit it on the nail. Everyone has a unique love story. I
Yeah.
think if I were to give one particular way, then I would box God into writing everyone's love story all the same. I don't think it's that way. I think it's unique to the individual. Uh, I think she touched on the fact that we must make sure that our relationship with God, first and foremost, is intact. It's where it should be. I think some of us have to heal. There are some emotional wounds that we have that we must heal from first prior to pursuing. I would also say this. I think to some degree, uh, we have to enjoy the romantic essence, if I could use that term, of how God designed for the whole uh, interest thing to work in dating. We don't find dating in the Bible. However, we all know that it's natural for a man to desire a woman and to pursue a woman. God designed it that way. He created it that way. I think sometimes I believe this is a personal opinion. This may be vary in different cultures, but sometimes I think we over spiritualize what should be practical, and as a result, I think we miss what God intended. And so, if you're drawn and attracted to an individual, and that's physical, by the way, there's no sin in being physically attracted to someone. It's okay to move on that physical attraction. When we're talking about dating, we're talking about getting to know an individual. I don't know you. I felt some type of attraction, and I want to further investigate or see what that is all about, to see if we're compatible, if we're suitable for one another to do life together. And so there's no set way. It's simply obviously submitting and yielding yourself to God and allowing God to lead you. I like the idea and the concept of praying first, although I know that it doesn't work that way for everyone. I do like the concept of praying first because you make a few mistakes and you realize, let me give to God first before I try this again and mess it all up. And so, yeah, that's my take on it.
One or two mistakes, you can run back to him like, God, please, what is going on? So thank you so much for that. So we're going to dive into a more serious topic, not so serious, but like what we want to know. So in relationship now and Christianity, when do you, okay, I know like there's no set rule to this, but like when do you go from one gear to another? So like, how do you go from, okay, the physical attraction to the dating, to courting, to engagement, and all that line, all that direction? Like, I mean, I know there's no way, but like in our generation, and you know how we are, and most of the time we even forget about the Bible sometimes until it's necessary. So I understand that yes, we have to have that personal relationship with God, but because of how things are going, how do you think, or when do you think it's okay to go from one gear to another? So I'm going to give it to John to answer the question.
Okay. The Bible tells us to guard our hearts. I think that's a text we often misunderstand at times, because instead of guarding our hearts, we harden our hearts. And the way that I understand guarding your heart is this, is that you're the security guard or the guard that's placed in front of your heart. And you give people access based on what they have shown you. And so if you showed me you're trustworthy, based on that, I will allow you to go maybe into the courtyard. If you show me that maybe that there's some compatibility, I'll allow you to go a little bit further. And so I think many of us are we're rushing the process that we're not getting a chance to vet people properly to see who's the best fit for us. It is my personal opinion that you should not invest any feelings up until there's a certain level of commitment. And so if you say we're dating exclusively, it's just the two of us dating, there's only so much emotionally that I should put in there. And then after we've had a conversation, someone has to eventually bring it up. Hey, I'm really enjoying this getting to know you. I think I've learned enough about you to take this a step further. Then at that point, when there's that level of commitment, you can give more of yourself. And the higher the commitment, the more of yourself you obviously open up to the individual, up until we get to the place of engagement and ultimately marriage, when you give yourself totally to a person. There's some intimate things about you that you don't share with a person. You don't say to them. There are perhaps certain things that you hold dear that unless I know I can trust you, I won't share with you. The Bible says you don't throw your pearls to swines. Why? Because they're trampled over it. And, a dog doesn't know the value of gold. You don't take your things that are precious and valuable and just give it to someone who has proven to you they don't know the value. You have to treat your heart that way. You cannot give it, forgive the expression, but to swines, to dogs, to people who don't have the capability or the ability to handle it. And so I think the way that you graduate from place to place is monitoring the individual that you're dating. And when you sense or feel that the dating has gone to a place where uh, they've sort of graduated this, then you can make the offer. Let's take it up a notch or not. And remember, it's mutual. So perhaps you're ready to take it up to the next level, and the other individual may not be. And so it's when both parties are ready to take it up. Only then can we graduate from faith to faith, from glory to glory, if you will.
Okay, I'm going to get to you in a bit. But John, you know that in this our century, yeah, we're all, or let me just speak from the ladies, but even for the guys, it's by what we see. So, and right now, everybody's trying to just, when you meet somebody, everyone is trying to just do the most. I'm here for you. You can count on me. I can trust you. All of that. So they want to, they're going to show you everything that you want to see, right? And they're going to tell you everything that you want to hear. And yes, as Christians, we like to all, as Christians and like people in our generation, we like to do, yeah, that's all it. But eventually, you're going to that heart that we're guarding up. It's gonna like the walls are gonna come down bit by bit.
Sure.
And in as much as you want to like, okay, fine, I'm going to like, let's try and take it up a notch. What if like there's no time frame to this, right? But how do you know when this person is not putting up an act, or like it's time to like, okay, let's allow him into the courtyard a bit. So when is that okay?
Well, that's the thing. It's called properly vetting a person. I think one of the issues is our fantasies get in our way. So I'll use an example. So I meet a young lady. She's gorgeous. She's absolutely beautiful. I love what I see. And then I get to know her and she's nice. That's all I know about her. And I'm like, oh God, she's the one. She has to be it, Lord. I need to wife her tomorrow. See, that's dangerous because my own fantasy now is driving me. What we have to do is you have to allow time, and time is different for everybody. And I tell people it's not necessarily how long, but the quality of the time. So some people need 60, 100 dates to get to know somebody. Some people will get to know someone in 5 to 10 dates because the quality of the dates. Some people show up on dates just to have a good time. Some are coming in meaning business, meaning I want to get to know you and I want you to really get to know me because my goal and my intention is for marriage. And so we have to allow time to sort of run its course, if that makes sense. We cannot rush the dating equation. You cannot just immediately because, oh, he's so handsome or she's so beautiful and they said all the right things. Well, that's great. But you have to have a vetting process, and we're all seeking and searching for something different. And there are key things. We all have negotiables and non-negotiables. We have to come into the dating scene knowing what we want, what we do not want, and we have to be observant and be able to detect and discern certain things. And so you must never forget why you're on the dating scene. The goal there is to collect as much data as you can, as much information to draw a conclusion, to make a decision. And so if you make a decision prematurely, it can be costly to your heart. And so we have to vet people properly. And sometimes that means giving it some time, even though everything looks okay, but you give it some time because you don't sense a certain peace about it yet. And so you go to the Lord, you pray, but do you also give it time and allow things to run its course, if that makes sense? I hope that answered the question.
Yes, it did actually.
Okay.
It's just that in our time where everyone is in a hurry to get there and have the ring,
Yeah.
and like we're all in a hurry, you get that. So I definitely understand you. So Matayo, what do you think? Like, when is it okay to go from I like you, okay, let's do this. When are you gonna put a ring on it? So like, When do you think
Goodness.
is?
Yes. So I really love everything that John said. I want to start from time. I find that with me, for instance, I experienced this personally, and I had to learn from this personally, is that my fantasies were faster than real life.
Yeah.
And that it is only with time that you can manage your emotion.
So
And
good.
managing emotions is the most difficult thing that particularly a woman would have to learn to do. But it is crucial. These days, we have many women, you meet a guy, he likes you, you went on a couple of dates, it's not working out anymore, and all of a sudden, you tell everybody he's a dog, you tell everybody he's the worst person in the world. Why? Because in the first stage of getting to know each other, you had already jumped, and then every single thing he said that was good, everything he did, you took that as a sign of commitment, and now you are hurt. But he wasn't, it was because of your fantasies in your mind, because this is your husband, therefore he said a nice thing, and so oh my God, he committed, but he never committed. He was still in the initial stage. And the only way that we are going to learn to be truly discerning is when we allow ourselves to be objective. And you cannot be objective when your fantasies are getting in the way. And so for me, I think you have to take a step back. You look at this guy, you like him. Check him by your list if you need to. But day one does not mean that he's going to marry you.
It's good.
It doesn't matter if he looks, oh my goodness, like, trust me, I've been thinking for a while, this has happened to me over and over again.
So it's fine to have the list.
The thing is, like, I think it's fine to have a list. Okay. But the thing is, again, remember, we are Christians, right? So we have a relationship with God. I have a long, long list. But I have met people and I've been in situations with God where God is like, yes, are you going to use your list today? And I'm like, okay, sorry. And I would literally close that list and allow myself to go on the journey that God is showing me. So my list is my own personal checks and balances. But I'm subjecting that to the Spirit at all times. So I meet someone and I check his personality and I check his character. But the thing is, this is something else I was talking about with my friend today. Good personality is not the same thing as good character. So you can get along with someone, but there are some things, and literally, it's painful. And as women, we're used to saying, oh my God, it's so painful. You know how I felt. You can imagine how sad I was. And I cried so much. But the fact that you cried doesn't mean it was real, doesn't mean it was deep. So time, I would say give it time. You feel like calling every day, relax. The fact that you've been talking every day for a month, chill, just wait. And I would say always allow the man to initiate the transition to the next phase. Just, where you already are, but allow him to be the initiator. I don't know what that looks like per circumstance to circumstance, like the woman may be the one who ends up saying something. But you must always allow the man, as a woman, you must always know what the man, check where he is and make sure he actually uses his mouth to say what he wants.
So we don't do the work for them. They need to do the work
at every stage. Not just do the work. You don't do the work of your imagination.
Oh, yeah.
Let him make the word become flesh. Let him move from the spirit to the physical. Amen. Let it become real life. Not just what you thought or you felt.
Lord.
So it's fine if we take out our, okay, we have from the list, we have this person that we want the Lord to create for us. So, but when you meet this person, as she said, okay, it's when you've been talking, allow time to unfold some things. Yes. So it's fine to take out that list, analyze who he is as a person, his character, his personality. And it's hard when you're trying to do character and personality because you can vibe with someone so well and you're like, how are you telling me this person is not my person? Like, what more do you want? It's tough out there. Like, if I find someone that matches my vibe, my energy, what am I still checking? And yes, I get that there's time, but like, it's tough though
Yeah.
to say that, to like come out of your fantasies, your checklist, and analyze this person. So in this day and age, it's really hard. And before you know it, it's like this person is like, yes, and then this, while you're taking your time, let's talk about this. While you're taking the time, they're like, you know how they say girls, you girls are too, like, you're taking your time, don't do shakara too much. I mean, I'm like, I was born for this. Just like, is it fine? Like, I know there's no time frame to it, but like, what time is enough? Like,
Right.
subject on an average, what time is enough? Like, okay, that you're not doing the most, or like you're thinking way too much, or
Yeah.
you didn't think too much, you didn't, as John said, like, you don't want to do it prematurely. Like, when is enough to
Yeah.
analyze and you're like, okay, this is not it? And even when you analyze and okay, you've thought about things and you've come to your conclusion, Omotayo, as you said, let him talk, and you're still waiting, he's not talking, what are you going to do?
Yeah. Yeah, right. So, I mean, the first thing is if you're doing all the analysis in your mind alone, you're not going to get the full picture. So, you have to be talking, you have to be asking questions. If you ask the questions that are really in your mind, you will know from his answers. Like if you ask the right questions, you will know from his answers where he is at each time. If you can't tell, then that's where you invite the spirit of God, right? But you ask questions. Um, John said something. It's different for different people because different people kind of bring themselves to the table at different times. So I may say, oh, I'm a very honest person, I'm a very open person, but I may not really be that open the first 5 days, right? But if I'm being open the first time and he's open as well, that can be 2 days. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's the level of openness and vulnerability that we're allowing ourselves to. That's what's going to determine it. But then if you're being more open than the other person is, that's your check to hold on.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? If you're going
Yeah.
too fast, if you're getting to the point where you want to talk to me 10 times a day and he only still wants to talk to you once, then relax. That's your check. And he must get to the point where he's able to articulate what he wants from the relationship. Don't assume, because some guys will go along with you. Some guys will pick up your call every single time. Some guys will meet up with you every time you say, let's meet up. But if you're the one initiating, you have to then, your slowing down is you taking a step back to see if he will initiate, if you don't initiate. So those are little things that you can use to check. Like, what's he doing? Are you the one making all the effort? Are you the one asking all the questions? And at every point, it depends on your personality as well. How much, when does it start to hurt? Once it starts to feel like you're trying too hard and he's not trying hard enough, that is your sign to just stop. Wherever he is where you stopped. And if by the time he's ready, somebody else is talking to you, you don't have to, you don't owe anybody anything. So
at that stage, you're free to keep talking or just walk away.
Literally.
Okay.
Exactly.
So John, let's hear it from the guy's side. So what do you think? I mean, girls, we can only think about it from our section. From the guy's side, when a girl is taking her time and she's thinking and she's analyzing things, do you guys think that, oh, we're doing way too much, or she is? Did you guys understand it from our point of view, or you just like, I'm out. Like, this is like, what's that big deal? What does she have?
I don't want to speak for every guy. It depends on the type of individual. I can say this: sometimes when a woman is, it depends on the guy's and his personality. Sometimes when the woman is taking on the role of the man, if you will, in the pursuit process, to some men, to most of us that I know, that can become a turnoff. I don't want to be pursued. Sometimes some women it can be a little bit overbearing, depending on a guy. For example, it depends on the person's personality. Some men are okay with talking 3-4 times a day. Some women want to talk all day, every day, morning to evening, and the man may not have it in him for that much. You see, it depends on the individual. However, some men aren't vocal enough, and because of their lack of articulating their feelings, their emotion, their lack of expression, women don't know where they stand. And what tends to happen is the woman usually goes harder. She's trying to make sure she gets him. Uh, but the harder she goes, the more he pulls back because he's already disconnected. And with men, we struggle with, many of us, with telling women how we feel because there's this protective nature in us to protect. And so you now have to tell a young lady the truth about, unfortunately, I'm not feeling this. And to some degree, that can almost, that can hurt the individual based on how much she's invested. So what some men will often do is shut down. They don't say anything at all and hope the woman, unfortunately, I don't support that method, but that's what happens. The young lady will, he would hope that this young lady picks up on it. And even if she does, oftentimes some women aren't honest with themselves to say, okay, he's pulling away, what's going on? They just start to go harder. I'm going to call him more. Or he didn't answer me, at 5, I'm going to call at 6 and 7 and 8 and 9. And ultimately he comes to, it's okay. And ultimately he comes to a point where eventually, sometimes when it comes out, it almost sounds a bit too firm. You're like, how could he be so firm with me? But sometimes you've been holding that in for some time. And so personally, I don't like the whole pursuit thing. That's just me. Everyone's different today now. Within this new era, the new generation, people are doing things differently. I like to pursue. I love it. I pursue differently. I'm not the type that just sees and pursues. There are men that are like that. They have a hunter's mentality. They see and they go. I'm not that type. I'm an observer. And there are some risks and some benefits to what I do. The risk is you can sit there and observe and to see, how you're going to pursue the right way, and somebody else can come and grab her before you had the chance to make your move. But also the person who sits back can study, because with women, we have one shot with y'all. Many of you guys don't know that we have one shot. It's scary. I want you to know that being a man pursuing is scary. You have one chance. Your first impression is everything. And a guy like me wants to get it right. I want to say the right things, because when I'm really attracted to a young lady, there's this sense of intimidation that happens. Not because I'm intimidated by her, but the whole process. What if I mess this up? I could say the slightest thing and this is it for me. She's done. If you're on Instagram or social media and you misspell a word and she said, this he can't even write. I don't need this. I don't need this stress in my life. And so sometimes I'm watching the personality. I'm seeing what angers her, what triggers her, what aggravates her, what she enjoys. That way I have a better understanding of the pursuit. It's easier when you have a little bit more understanding of an individual. And also it helps me to know if I really like you. I don't like everyone that I find, forgive me for being so bold, but I don't like everybody that I'm attracted to, if that makes sense. And beauty and attraction is not the same for me. I can find you to be extremely beautiful, but I'm not attracted to you. I can then be attracted to you, but I later discover I don't like you. I've met some gorgeous and attractive women that I knew I just would not pursue. That's from me sitting back and observing. And I said to myself, this is not for me. This is, she could be a great woman to another man, but to me, this is going to be a lot of stress for me. And so that's why.
Okay, so for the guys that are reserved, let's speak for those guys. The guys that are reserved, and you've been talking, and this girl is like bold. She's that independent woman. And for the reserved guys, obviously, I know that men, they have this hunting spirit. They go for whatever they want in any aspect of life. But now, as you said, yes, you could be observing and all of that, but you're talking to this person constantly, like you're talking almost every day, but you're still not saying anything. Or yes, maybe you go on few dates, like very few dates, but you're still not saying anything. And you're like, okay, and the girl's like, okay, deuces. And then the guy's like, oh, she's just too quick or something because you were not saying anything, but
Nobody's
we were
that
talking.
reserved.
Exactly.
Nobody's that reserved.
But why would you?
when you see a woman that you really, really want, and I'm one of them. I'm a reserved guy. I'm reserved. I'm very laid back. I'm sort of introverted. When I see a woman that I'm really interested in, oh no, we're not going to risk the possibility of losing. We're going to make it. You're going to do what you can. When you really want something, you don't give the person an opportunity to walk away. You're not trying to lose. I've never met a person who, let's say, wanted $1,000,000, and there goes the $1,000,000. And they're saying, I'm not going to get close. Oh, no, I don't want it. It just doesn't happen. When you find value in something, you draw closer to it. It's human nature. And so to me, it's an indication you just really aren't as interested as you like to lead yourself to believe, because nobody, and amongst the reserve, I'm extremely reserved. But if I want you, I'm going to make the effort to at least have a conversation. And if I could have the privilege to have a conversation or a dialogue with you, and we've exchanged numbers and we've been talking, why would I disappear? Why not continue that? Why not? This is my shot. This is my opportunity. I got to shoot my shot.
Have you met us? We ghost for a living. People ghost anyhow just because they don't want to have the conversation, or they will just ghost on you, just like. And
the ghost thing is different. I have a whole different theory on that.
How do you handle that in this time? Like someone would just ghost on you. I mean, it could be anything. It could be, and you're just like, oh, will I be the matured person? Would I ask him, oh, what happened? Do I want to be the nice person? You're just like, okay, deuces, whatever he wants to do. Like, how do you handle ghosting? Like, people will just up and leave in this time, and you're like, you don't matter, or they never had a thing in your life or something. So, Amatai, what do you think about ghosting in this time?
So I really want to hear what John has to say, because again, I know about the woman's mind, but I want to get the man's perspective. However, what I will say is that I think that ghosting means that you've assessed the risk of leaving, and you've decided that it's okay, it's worth it, which means maybe he really liked you, maybe not, but he was willing to risk not having you, because obviously if he goes quiet for a while, it means that you can have attention from someone else, which just means that for the woman who is feeling hurt, cry but move on. Like the whole thing about wanting to be the mature person, I've used that a lot in the past. It is a way of saying, I want him to tell me by himself that he's really walking away from all this. But it doesn't really, he's already gone, he already went. So, and women do it all the time. And whenever women do it to men, we're like, you should take a hint. So we just can't take what we give, which is fair enough. But ghosting is just, he wasn't that interested.
Okay. All right. So John, what do you think about ghosting?
I think ghosting is cowardly. However, I think any mature man should be mature enough to have the conversation. Now, I'm going to tell you why men don't have the conversation. I'm going to be completely transparent with you. And this may be a little hard to accept, but I think we must talk about this. So I haven't ghosted women, but I have sat back and I've said to myself, I see why men ghost y'all. I've actually, I'm sorry, I've said it to myself because I've tried to do the right thing. So you meet a young lady, you try dating her, and then what happens when you've discovered, oh, this is not it for me? I'm sorry, we're not going anywhere. You're a wonderful human being, but you're not for me. And I'm going to be honest with you. I have never been successful at saying this to a woman. No matter how nice, I've rehearsed it 17 times at the house. I got in the mirror, I said, this is how I'm going to say it. I'm going to lace it with sensitivity. I'm going to lace it with compassion. And when I deliver it, she's going to be receptive. No, it's never been so easy. It's, are you sure? Is there anything I can do? But no, you misunderstood that. I'm like, no, I don't think it's going to. And the nicer that you are, sometimes the harder it is. And so what men tend to do is, I'm going to skip that whole sometimes begging process. and I'm just going to ghost you altogether. Because if you're a man with a heart, I'm going to be honest with you, sometimes you continue in something you don't want to out of mercy and pity, not because you're genuinely interested in a person. And I'll be honest with you, I've been there, where I know this wasn't going anywhere, but come on, give me a chance, let's try. Like, no, come on. Have you prayed? Have you fasted? That's when they start using the Lord. You're not fasting enough. That's the problem. You don't know the Lord like you think you do. And the guilt trip. and and no man really wants to deal with that. And so what happens is, I've said to myself, oh my God, I see why the last one ghosted you, baby girl. And so it's hard to have the conversation. And what they're really ghosting is not so much you, is that right here, this dialogue, this conversation that I think it takes a lot of strength and maturity to have. And I don't think every man is capable of having that dialogue. And women, you guys are tough. You guys look me in my, you don't want to do it over the phone. You don't want to text message. Look me in my eyes and tell me you don't want this. And and that makes it a million times harder, because naturally, it's instinctually, we have this protective nature. And now we almost feel like we're having to hurt you when we know within us we want to protect you. And so there's this conflict. And some men don't know how to really deal with that. And so here, boom, they're out. I can't tell her that this is not going anywhere, or I'm not interested, or I'm going to say I've lost interest. That happens. We don't like to talk about that, but
And I get
sometimes,
it.
yeah.
I get it, but I would rather do that than have you second guessing what it could be. Like the
Yeah,
effect
I
that
agree.
has on
I agree.
people, man or woman, it is really, really, it's, you would second guess your whole life just because of anything, and it could be something. So I get that, yes, people are, maybe they're not bold enough, it could be anything, but like, isn't it better just to have that conversation and know this is what it is than to guess
Absolutely.
that, oh, it
And
could
I
be
think it's
this
with
or
both.
that or this or that, like,
It's both men and women. I'll tell you what,
yeah.
as a man, when we're pursuing, can you imagine the women who don't respond back to us? Oh, I've been there. Oh my God. I've got to go to fasting and prayer after that for God to give me strength again, because you sink into depression. You're trying to figure out, what was it about me that she didn't like? Was it the way that I approached her? Maybe I didn't spell the words properly. Maybe it was the way I said it. Everyone goes through that. And I get it. You wonder, what is wrong with me? The reality, it may be nothing wrong with you. Sometimes you're just not a good fit. And we have to understand that in this dating scene, you could be two great individuals, but you're not great fits for one another. Where you're headed in life and where I'm going just doesn't mesh well. Your purpose doesn't line up with my purpose. Your destiny is in conflict with my destiny. And as a result, we can't take that route together. But it doesn't mean that we can't be friends or business partners or something else in the future. It's just romantically, this is not it. We miscalculated whatever it is that we thought we felt.
Okay, thank you so much for
Can
that.
I add
Oh
just
yes,
something
sure,
to the end of
definitely.
that? Yeah. So I mean, I love literally when he was talking, I was just like, oh my God, I have definitely been that overbearing. I can love you enough, I can prove to you that you
Yes.
really want me person. But what I wanted to say also for the woman, I mean, obviously the second guessing is there, the doubting and all of that, even not just for the women, for the men as well. But that is the point where God comes in and God becomes a practical part of this process. Like you literally may have to go back and be like, I am the righteousness of Christ Jesus. I am
That's good.
beautiful. I am whole. I am, you have to. But then the other thing that I've done personally is I've also remembered the good times, not just the bad times, because that reminds me that I did not fall for somebody. Like I didn't lose my Christianity because I was so desperate for a relationship. Like if I remember that I went through the process, I prayed, we got along, it was good, we were friends. Do you know what I mean? I remember those times before it went bad. And so I remind myself that I followed the Christian steps. Do you know what I mean? Like I followed God's way. I didn't just jump into some useless thing, or maybe I did. Maybe it was my bad choice. Maybe I saw something and I overlooked it. But being able to be honest with myself allows me to also release some of that pain of what was it? Did I do something wrong? Because it's just easier to just remind myself that, you know, I am a whole person. I'm okay. It's okay if I made one or two mistakes. I'm not perfect. The person who's for me will be patient with me, or you know what I mean? Just remind yourself of the things you know about who you are and what everybody has told you about what the right person would be like. And just cry with your friends. Like, be honest. Don't try to be macho. Don't try to act like you didn't mean anything. Whatever. I didn't care. I didn't really like you. Don't lie to yourself. Just go through it so that you can bury it, so that there's no, you're not trying to prove a point, you're not trying to like take these pictures on Instagram so that when he sees it, he'll know what he's missing out, you know, that kind of that kind of thing. Oh, I can't hear you.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, so just to understand now, so well, that, as you said in the beginning, this is why it's good to have that great relationship with God. So if it goes south or if it goes great, at the end of the day, you still have that friend in Jesus, that friend in God that you can talk to. It can guide you as regards to what you can do. So even if it goes well, oh well and good, praise Jehovah. But if it doesn't, when you're in your sad times, you're listening to those heartbreak songs, like, why am I not enough? You go back to God to comfort you, to tell you are enough. He loves you. The right person is coming. When you think about all those times, we were this, we laughed at this. You talk, God is like, I got you, girl. Don't worry. I got you, guy. Don't worry. The right person is coming. You just got to go through this. So it's better to have that comfort in God. So that way, whatever is going through, like, you have that peace of mind when you talk to Him. So whenever or whatever you're doing next, even when you cry to, you know, as much as I want to cry to our friends, they can only hear. And we like to hear what we like to hear. If you talk to your friends about this and they're being real with you, it's like, are you my friend? Like, so I get it. So at the end of the day, it's really important to have that connection, that personal relationship with God, because I know for a fact that when you talk to Him wholeheartedly, you have that peace of mind. And that peace of mind is really bliss. Like, you cannot compare it with anything in this life. So I definitely understand that. So Amatayo, you said something earlier that really caught me. You said great personality and great character are not the same thing. That is hard though, because how can you tell me I'm vibing with somebody, this person is matching my energy, and yes, maybe there's some things that are off the checklist, but it's like major things. I mean, it's God fearing, but it doesn't mean you're a match. So how do you know when the relationship is going nowhere and it's like, okay, it's time to cut it? Like, so when do you think it's time to like cut that? Like, yeah, thanks for your services, but bye.
So is this like you're already dating, right? And so
Yes,
how
like
do
you've
you
gone
know
on
when
few
to
dates.
end the relationship? You know, what kind of dating? So are you committed? Are you like boyfriend and girlfriend, and then you're wondering
Um,
whether to break up, or are you just talking to each other and you're wondering when to step back?
So let's just say we're talking to each other and we've had like few dates, we've
Right.
had good laughs, we've seen that we
Yeah.
have like similar energy or vibes, or we like same things, but
Yeah.
there are some things that don't vibe with you. But you're like, okay, I'm going to allow, but like deep down in your spirit, you're just like, no. So like maybe you're, okay, so let's give an example that, okay, now you've analyzed, but the guy is still pushing through, but you don't want to be the one to be the like, nah, I ain't gonna break your heart, boo, I'm sorry. But like, when do you think,
Yeah.
even for the guy as well, like, when do you think it's okay to like voice out? So I'm going to speak from the, I want you to speak from the ladies' part now. So even the guy, even if the guy is
Right.
still pushing through, but you're just like, I know you have a great personality, but my person and your person were just not it. And you want to still be
Right.
quiet. Like, when do you think it's okay to have that conversation?
Right. Okay, so I'm going to first answer the difference between good personality and character. So personality is like fun loving. So let's say you have that list, right? Fun loving, you laugh at the same jokes. You get when you guys hang out, you have a good time. You get along with his friends. Maybe if you met, he gets along with you. You guys have similar backgrounds, similar experiences, similar like so you just gel. But he's not necessarily the most honest person. So maybe at work, he believes it's okay to lie. Like, he just didn't feel like showing up to work. Maybe he had another job, maybe he had a job interview, but he lied. He's okay with lying because he thinks, it's just a little white lie. That's character. Or little things for me, like if you ask me out on a date and we're in Lagos, I live in Lagos, Nigeria, so you don't know how I'm going to get to you. Public transport is not the most comfortable thing. You have a car, right? Ask me, like, do you know what I mean? How are you getting there? Do you need me to pick you up? If you don't ask me, I'm going to think that you're someone who doesn't care instinctively. But it's okay the first time, the second time. But if by like the third, fourth time, you've never asked me how I got to that place in this Lagos, you are probably a bit inconsiderate because you know that it can be, it may be uncomfortable, it may be costing me money. Like you can just pick me up. Like, what's the big deal? But if you don't check, if you're not someone who is considerate, who asks those questions, it will be a check for me. So we may have a great time when we are at the date, but what are the things around it? People always talk about how do you treat the waiter? How do you treat the staff? Those are the things that you can see. So he may be really nice to you, you guys may gist and have a good time, but you can tell that he snaps. Or maybe the change is literally 15 naira change, and we wait there until he brings the change back. And you're like, oh, really? Like, is this who you are? So you can tell that good personality is different from good character. But when it comes to figuring out when it's time, I think if you've noticed that either the person doesn't have the character that you like or that you want, or the person doesn't have a personality that vibes with yours, then you have to this is like literally like the ghosting conversation we just had. You just have to rehearse your speech 17 times and just find a way to let the person know. That's what I think.
Okay, so John, what do you think? When do you think is the time to like cut it, or to just tell yourself that it's going nowhere and maybe have the conversation, or just take the load and just walk away? Like, when do you know that, okay, this is going nowhere for me?
I think you have to know know how to properly assess the situation. Here's the thing. I think some of us look at dating and expect to meet somebody who's perfect. That doesn't exist. There is no perfection. You have to know the difference between a person who's not perfect and somebody who's no good for you. There's a difference. There's a big difference. And that's the type of assessment that you have to do. And so when you've sat back and realized there is no possible growth, we're just too different for this to work, we don't fit, then I think it's time to have that conversation. The moment you come to that realization, you should start prepping for that conversation. I don't see the purpose of waiting and prolonging it. I think it only makes things a million times worse. Because the longer you wait, the more you give a person a chance to, for lack of better terms, to fall for you more. And it becomes harder to detach when it's time to let go. And so once you've come to that realization, if you properly assessed it, that it's not just that they're not perfect, but they're no good for me, then it's time to say, unfortunately, in a very nice, loving way, gracefully, with, ask the Lord to equip you with love and compassion and mercy in your delivery. And then you let them know, unfortunately, I do not think we're a great fit for one another. And I don't want to waste your time, and I don't want to waste mine, or etc. However you word it. I don't think you have to still be considerate that that's a brother or sister in Christ. And so you don't want to wound them to the degree that you damage their heart so that they can't love or date again. You have to be very careful and understand that this is a brother or sister in the Lord whose heart is fragile, and you have to take it from that angle. So even though you're saying something that may not want to be heard, you want the person to be able to leave. If they're mature, they should be able to say, although I hate what he said or what she said to me and it hurt me, I respect them for their honesty and I respect them for their delivery. And so as soon as you discover, you should have the conversation.
things.
I could not hear you. I'm sorry.
Sorry. I'm like, no matter how much you want to word things in, like, no matter how nice, even if you take the whole armor of God with you, no matter how you say it, so I'm not enough? Nah,
Well, it's gonna hurt. Let's be real. It's going to hurt. And no, there's no way around it. This is why we're trying to make it as nice as it's going to hurt. It doesn't feel good, you know. I had a young lady one time. Well, I don't think she was too nice, but she told me she wasn't interested. And oh my God, I felt like there isn't another woman on the face of the earth who's better for me than her. She's just it. She's God's son. The hand of the Lord is on her. There's an anointing there drawing me. This is the Lord's choice for me. And here she is not accepting it. And so this is what I want to feel. This is what I want to believe. And so there's nothing she could have said to me that would have made it feel good. And it took some time to sort of get over that. But she was not interested. And you have to be okay with that. And I always remember things that I post. It's better to wait long than to marry wrong. I rather hurt now than to have married you and then be in a worse situation later. And so that sort of insight, that sort of wisdom is what sort of helps me. But there's no way to avoid it. Unfortunately, it's the risk we take for deciding I'm going to pursue love. It comes with the territory. It's going to hurt. We all feel like we're not enough,
Yeah.
That's the truth.
Okay, so as you said now, when you're now on the receiving end of the one hearing the speech you don't want to hear, how do you handle that? Like, can you handle that gracefully? I know, yes, talk to God, but like, is there a way you can handle breakups? Like, what do you think?
Yes, there is a way. There is a way.
Okay.
I haven't fully been. I haven't fully walked in it yet, but there is a way.
I want to know what's the way.
Well, the way is to do the mature thing, even when it hurts. We know what the right thing is to do. I hear you. I understand where you're coming from, and to move. And then if there's going to be a grieving period, you grieve. You don't sort of bring that person into that torment. That's the way to do it. But unfortunately, we don't want that. Sometimes we want you to feel what we feel. Oh, you thought you was all that, huh? You think you all that? We get it. But because we're in the feelings, the emotions, you notice the Bible tells us to renew the mind. It's I tell people that salvation happens almost in two parts, really. It's not three parts. The Bible talks of us being saved instantaneously, like it just happened. But that's the spirit, man. Our soul, the Bible tells us, must be renewed every day. You've got to work this thing out. And so the soul houses the mind, the will, and the emotions. Our emotions, we got to fight with that thing daily. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so even for me, who's telling people this, no matter how much I preach it, to walk it, to experience it, it just doesn't feel good. There's no way around it. And so the right way to do it is to be mature and to say, I hear you. Even if you got to say it with tears in your eyes, I hear you. I understand it. Thank you for being honest with me. Thank you for not leading me on. Thank you for not prolonging this and allowing me to go further. It could have hurt even more. God bless you. I'm still praying for you.
Okay.
It's not hard. It's not easy at all. But this is the Christian way. This is what the Lord expects of us. But it's not easy. There's no easy way around it.
Well, God says love your brother. So, all right. So, Matai, what do you think? How do you think we can handle breakup gracefully? Is there a way?
So I'm big on the soul part. How are souls saved? How do you do that renewing of the mind? And how do you make it practical? I think for me, the first thing is to stop continuing to say it is easier said than done. We already know it is easier said than done, but until you start doing it, it's not going to get any easier. But if you keep doing it, it will get easier eventually. And so for me, I thought about how I thought God told me who my husband was. I did the whole thing. I told him, and you chose someone else, how did I feel? I mean, God said, I mean, I had witnesses, there were signs, like, how do you deal with that? And for me, it is to be very, very honest. First of all, be honest with yourself. I find that we use our emotions as an opportunity to cover our flaws. So literally, women, we do this. I don't know if men do it in their own way as well. But once you are the one crying, you are the one who's right. And that's not true. And so even in my tears, I'm like, what did I do? So, I mean, I've been in many, well, not that many relationships, but for instance, with this one, right? I approached this person because I believed God said. Therefore, if it didn't work, it can never be that person's fault because I approached them. Do you know what I mean? Unless the person was mean or rude or unkind, and that was not the case. So, no matter how hurt I feel, I have to recognize that he didn't lead me on. It was my journey. So that's one truth. I just have to, do you know what I mean? Like I cried for truth. I cried. I almost broke up with God. But that was my journey. Or then I met someone else. I really liked the guy. The guy wanted to have sex before marriage. I said no. And it didn't work out because he was like, I can't do this. So I'm hurt, but I recognize that this person is not God's choice because if you're walking with God, you have to, do you know what I mean? This is what it is. Your purity is important. So I am hurt, but that's not going to lead me to basically try not to act based on your emotions. And that takes the willingness. God doesn't expect us to have that strength overnight, but do you genuinely have a desire to do the right thing? Like sometimes when we're hurt, we don't want to do the right thing. We want to lash out. Can you admit that? Like, can you just face yourself and say, I want to hurt this person? But even with that admission, stop covering it with, oh, I felt bad now. I just did it because I felt bad. Just take that moment. It is easier said than done, but with the doing, it gets easier. And that's what I'm finding, that when somebody tells me, like when a guy tells me, like this guy tells me, you came on too strong, can I take that feedback? Can I accept exactly what John was saying? Can I accept that this is what I did? And so before I start saying, but that's just how I felt, before I start becoming defensive, can I own the truth? So the truth will set us free. That's the first step for me. The tears and all of that, it makes it easier to move past it when you are not nursing the lies and the wounds. Because if you tell yourself lies about the situation, then the lies are just going to keep hurting you over and over again. But like, it's, rip the Band-Aid off. It's better than keeping all those little lies there that make you feel more comfortable. And sometimes we tell ourselves these stories because we're telling our friends one version of the story, we're telling our mom one version of the story, we're telling somebody else another version of the story. And so we're going to protect ourselves. We're not going to tell them, oh no, but I showed up in his house half naked and then he rejected me. And I was like, you're not going to tell them that part. So yeah, we have to be honest with ourselves and stop editing the version of the story to look like the good person. Yeah.
We all want to paint that picture that I did everything, I was perfect, but you just can't see this perfection and it's not my fault. So I get it, but then again, okay, with what you've said now, when you're being honest with yourself, when you soak in everything, when you're being open and you talk to God, and you're just not saying it's going to get better, you're actually trying to get better every day, and you're talking to God gracefully, I think you would get there. Like, it's going to be hard, it's going to hurt, but slowly you would get there. And it's better when you're open with yourself, so that way in the next relationship you have, you know, okay, this is what it is, this is what I can handle, this is like, you are able to know yourself more and know what you're bringing to the table, so that way the same what happened in the last relationship would not happen again. So definitely honesty, they say, is the best policy, but we try
And
not to do that.
also, if it was a bad breakup, you don't have to be the mature one. This is my thing. You don't have to be his friend. You don't have to
Oh yeah.
pretend that you're
Oh yeah.
okay.
Really, as a
Like,
Christian?
you
Yes.
don't.
Yes. I agree.
You can pray for him in your room if you
Yeah.
feel the need, but you
Yeah.
don't. You can see literally one of the most empowering moments for me was
Yes.
when I saw this guy who had hurt me, and he reached to hug me. I was like, "Hi," because he knew we weren't like. Do you know what I mean? Like, and that gave me so much freedom. And so the next time I saw him, I could be polite the next time, because that one time I could act how I felt. Again, I wasn't rude. I didn't throw my drink in his face. You know, it wasn't like in front of everyone. I wasn't trying to embarrass him. I just wanted him to know that I wasn't going to play the game of acting like I was okay with it just because it was over. Like, it's over. We're not talking. Nothing is happening. We know what happened, but don't act like it's okay when it's not okay. That was my only thing. So you don't have to be mature. You don't have to say it was nothing. You don't have to downplay your feelings. Just be honest, and just don't be mean. Do you know what I mean? And just be honest with yourself.
Yeah, so it's fine being honest with yourself, but doesn't mean you have to. I don't want to say you don't have to be the bigger person, but like when you're being honest with yourself, you know how when you're being honest with yourself, and there are sometimes you're just like, and this person reaches out to you, and you're just like, I'm matured, so it's fine doing that. Like, I understand that we're not what we used to be, but let's just keep this distance. Like, nah, we really don't need to be exchanging so much pleasantries. Like, I get that you're a Christian and you're a Christian brother in the Lord, I'm a Christian sister in the Lord, but like, let's keep it cute. Let's keep it moving. Thanks for yourself. So that is fine. Like, even if there is a love your brother, love your neighbor, and all of that, like, because you're being on, I find that I feel very. How do you balance it, though? I would say, because I mean, you're being honest with yourself, and you're being a Christian, and then because you've acknowledged a lot of things, now this person, I understand that yes, you want to like own your feelings and I'm getting better and all of that, but how do you not balance it based on like this person is coming in your circle and you see him, you don't want to be rude, but like you're just like, nah, it's okay, like let's not do that, don't message me, don't text me, don't hug me, none of that. Like, how I feel like it's very hard to balance. John, what do you think?
I think you have you have. Here's the thing: you can't love people from a distance. You can love people from the balcony. They do not have to be in your face to love them. We're required to love them, not required to be all up in their face. Nowhere in Scripture says be all up in their. It didn't say that. And you must sometimes you have to love them from a distance. And Christian or not, the reality is some people are very toxic to us. They can call themselves brother in the Lord, sister in the Lord. Some people are no good for us. And sometimes, even though we're called to minister to different people, but sometimes people being in your circle, everybody's not a delivered Christian. Can I put it that way? Sometimes they've opened themselves up so that the devil can use them. And because they are allowing the devil to use them, they're coming and vexing my soul and my spirit. So I can only love you from a distance right now until you get free, you see. And so I don't think it's mandatory that you be in everybody's face. I don't think it's a necessity. In fact, I think sometimes for your emotional and even spiritual well-being, sometimes it's necessary that we part. And I'll always love you, but and this may be a different context, but the principle is the same. When you look at Abraham and Lot, you understand, it came to a point where they could not dwell in the same place together, and they had to part. It wasn't because there was hatred. On the contrary, it was the opposite. It was that so we keep the peace. You must part. You go your way. I'll go my way, and I'll send you off with the blessing of the Lord. But right now, it's not beneficial that we be in one another's face. And so I think it's the same thing within relationships. Sometimes, yeah, go over there. Let me love you from a distance. I tell you, and so sometimes trying to be the bigger person gets you in trouble. You were trying to be the bigger person, and the spirit on them has been taunting you. And before you know it, you said a few things with your mouth you didn't intend on saying, but you stayed in that space for too long. And it was better that you left them from a distance. So I'm all for it. I support it. I think it's a necessity. That sometimes there's some space between our brothers and our sisters in the Lord. I love you, but just don't be all up in my face. Give me time. Let me heal. Let me, go through this process. You've caused me some pain. Allow me to heal. One of the things I never understood in our culture, in our society, is that the person who inflicted the pain is trying to tell you how to heal. You don't get a chance to stab me. The knife is still in me, and then you're going to tell me, you know what, you cried a little too much. Calm down. You just inflicted me with pain. All right, you don't get to dictate how I feel, how I hurt. Get away from me, because this is what you're causing me. Get away. And so sometimes trying to be the bigger person and saying, oh my God, being the macho Christian, what would Jesus do? Maybe Jesus would love them. Well, you're not Jesus on the cross. You're not in a position where you can say, Father, forgive them. They know not what they do. In fact, if you open your mouth, it's going to be some ungodly things that come out of your mouth. So just get that space. It's a necessity sometimes. I think it's sometimes beneficial for our spiritual growth and our emotional healing. That's my take on it. We don't.
You're, a lot of times it's like you're maturing, but like you don't want to talk to the person. So it's like, what are you doing? So people see you as, well, you say like you're fine, you're doing good, you're laughing, but you don't want to talk to me. So like you're lying to yourself. So they feel like, okay, you're contradicting yourself. Like, okay, you say you're fine, you say you're healing, you say you're being the bigger person, and now I'm trying to reach out to you, you are ignoring me. So it's like, if you're healing, say you're healing, stop trying to be like a macho person. It kind of like, when you're trying to be like the bigger person and you're trying to say hi, but you're like, no, not yet. It's like, then why are you trying to be the bigger person? So, I mean, in this day and age, it's like you can never, well, then again, you can never go right by everybody, and everybody's not for you, I say. But like, on to the next question now. Do you think the church plays a role in relationship? Like, do you think like church leadership plays a big role in relationship in our day and age? Keep in mind that there is that generation and there's this generation, and there's kind of like a conflict of them trying to understand us trying to understand them. Everyone is trying to be woke. But do you think the church actually plays a role? Let's keep it to church leadership. Do you think they play a role in our relationship? So, Omotaya, what do you think?
I think that the generation before us, especially, well, I only know the Nigerian church, they didn't think that pleasure was important in marriage, and they didn't understand the role of free will and choosing, and they also were distant. So marriage is supposed to be the most intimate union, but their own marriages were not always the most intimate. And so when they believed it's time, it became a pressure thing. It became like, so young man, why aren't you married? Young woman, why aren't you married? You should be doing the responsible thing. But then there's God's timing, but there's also the pleasure and the intimacy of it. And in our generation, we are not going to be married just to sit on the front pews of church together. So we are having to learn ourselves what marriage is supposed to look like, because unfortunately, we cannot look to them for the perfect example. We have anointed men married to anointed women, but we do not like each other. And we don't want that. So we've definitely inherited we've taken on some rebellion because we just don't want their way. I know that there are many churches where the leaders will come and say, God said this is your husband and God said this is your wife. just get together. I think that's really unfair. Because even if God did say, like, there is a place of free will and there is a place of pleasure and actual desire, I think that the older generation, I think we need to see, it would have been nice to have seen couples my parents' age in the church who loved each other. Because then we would have seen what it looked like to have somebody married 30 years, 40 years, and we're happy. And we would have been able to hear their advice, because we do need their advice. It's just thrown out the back of us. So I think that in this day and age, what would be great would be to have good Christian relations, like good Christian married mentors. But the ones that I find around me, they're not happy themselves. So I don't trust you. So I don't want to hear what you have to say. And so we end up making a lot of mistakes that we didn't need to, because we don't have people to listen to. I'm not really sure to what other extent. I don't think that, in an ideal world, it would have been nice to have people to look up to and listen to. But I don't think that we are in an ideal world. And so we're having to be led by the Spirit, and we go through all our crazy ups and downs by ourselves. And I think we're figuring it out somehow.
It's one trial and error.
Yeah.
All right, John, what do you think?
Let me speak. I'm in America, so I'm going to speak the American church. I think, this is a personal opinion of mine, but I think heaven has an indictment on the American church as it pertains to marriage. I think in America, there's too much time and too much emphasis spent on teaching wives to be good wives, or teaching women to grow up to be good wives. And you don't hear a single thing about men being good husbands. That imbalance creates frustration in women. And it's very difficult. And here's the crazy thing. I think the proper order should be that the older generation should mentor the younger generation. It's very difficult to submit to an older generation, and this is no bash on them. They did the best they knew based on the understanding they had. But it's very difficult to submit to a generation who, the scales aren't balanced. That's one. Secondly, I also feel like, similar to Nigeria, the unhappy piece. A lot of them were married, they understood commitment, but they did not understand fulfillment and joy and happiness within marriage and pleasure. What God intended, they lack that. So it's difficult. You look at them and you say, I don't know that I want that. The thing that troubles me, though, is that generation is filled with wisdom that our generation don't have. And so I'm conflicted, to be honest with you, because I need them.
Yes.
Because I want them to impart the wisdom. But I also have enough sense to know there's some knowledge that unfortunately they lacked, or they shut themselves down to. And I don't want that misery that they went through, because I think it's unnecessary. I want to enjoy my marriage. I want a sense of fulfillment. But I do believe in premarital counseling. I think the proper order is that there should be church leaders that should be able to counsel. When you study theology, well, I know in the States here, you have to go through pastoral counseling. And so you have to be able to counsel. Even with that, while its intention is wonderful, there's a lot of manipulation. There's a lot of deception. There's a lot of control, so that church members are always here doing what I want them to do, when I want them to do it. Forget your marriage. And so there's a trust factor that I think the church, the body of Christ as a whole, will have to work at. And I think we're going to have to first get in prayer concerning it. But we have to find a way to connect the generations, because this may sound weird. I think the older generation can teach us a lot, but I also think there's a lot that this generation, God has imparted in this generation. If the older generation would just kind of listen for a moment, and remove some of the blockages that they have, they can actually learn, even though they think we're godless and we don't have as much God in us as they do, and we're not as yielded to the Lord as they are, and our walk is not as pure. I believe that there are things that God, I don't want to say skip the generation, but somehow he managed to impart in the younger generation. And if they would just listen, their lives would be much more fulfilling, much more enjoyable, much more fun. They would smile more, you know. They wouldn't be so serious all the time. They would, you know, wives would genuinely love their husband, not, you know, could you imagine just simply being with a man because what the Lord said be with him? I mean, I hated guts, but the Lord said be with them. You know, I think I think our generation can sort of help through that. And I think they can help us because I think our generation is filled with knowledge. To me, we're probably going to be most knowledgeable, most intelligent generation ever. So brilliant, maybe because of the internet. However, we lack wisdom.
Yeah.
There are things, there are godly insight and wisdom you can't get from Google. You can't get it from, you know, searching the internet. Wisdom comes from God. And so as they impart wisdom into us, maybe we can do there should be some sort of transaction where we give a little bit of knowledge, like you can smile a little bit. It's okay to enjoy your husband and your wife. And so that's where I see church leadership right now as it pertains to relationships and marriage. Both, I think the younger generation and the older generation has a lot to offer and a lot to learn. None of us has it all together. Our divorce rate is way too high as far as the younger generation is concerned, and the older generation, they may not have a high divorce rate, but their misery rate is way too high. Too many of them are miserable, and so there must be a balance there. And so that's what I think.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much. This was really helpful. I definitely would say like I learned a lot of things, and it's amazing talking to you guys. I just have one final question. I'm just going to throw it out there. Do you think as Christians it's fine to go through therapy?
Yeah.
It's not like why you like talk
Oh
to the
yeah.
Lord is the best therapist.
Oh no 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 no.
Because
Therapy,
like looking at it
therapy.
from the other generation, you're like, what?
Oh
Like, why are you
no
talking
no
to
no
like that? Those are some of the examples that they
no
don't get. And like, how are
no.
you gonna explain to like I need to talk to someone? You're like, talk to God, but like, I need to talk to someone. It's kind of like conflict of interest. Like, oh, talk to somebody. You're like, yes, I've spoken to God, but I need to talk to somebody else. And they're like, oh, why are you talking to somebody else when you've spoken to God? So it's like, like, do you think as Christians it's fine going to see a therapist or anything like that? What do you guys
Yes,
think?
can I jump in really quick? I
Oh
think
yeah,
it's
sure.
recommended. I think many Christians need it. I'm going to be honest with you, because I think it's somewhat toxic to tell people just go to God when God equipped certain people to do it. It's like I'll give you an example. It's God gave doctors this ability to help. It's like having an ailment that can God heal you? Absolutely, of course He can. He's God. But God doesn't work that way. He enabled other men. God expresses himself through men, whether we like it or not. I'll give you another example. It's like praying for a job. God can crack the sky open and give you a job, but he doesn't work that way. He wants us to interact with one another. And so he'll touch the heart of an individual and cause them to give you whatever it is, the job that you're seeking. The same way it is with physical healing, it runs parallel as it pertains to emotional healing. And I think the older generation view emotional healing the same as spiritual healing, and it's not all the same. Emotionally, you should have to talk to somebody, and there's not much awareness as it pertains to mental health. Um, that's why you have a suicide rate that is constantly increasing because people, you know, you tell people go to God, and they do go to God. Um, I'll put it this way: God said to Adam, "It's not good that man be alone." Adam was not alone. God was right there, walking in the cool of the day, and there were animals there. So how can God say it's not good for man to be? He's not alone. Well, here's what I understood. Adam could not interact with the animals because they were on a lower plane than he was. And there's a particular level he could not interact with God because God is higher than he is. So Adam needed somebody here, eye to eye. And we all need that. Somebody, it's not that God is not present, but we need someone eye to eye who can sort of understand us and help us navigate and get through life. And so I think therapy is a necessity in today's day and age. I would actually encourage anyone feeling the need to go through therapy. I support premarital counseling. I think before marriage, we should be. I don't believe in waiting till there's a problem. to go see some type of counselor. I think premarital counseling, some type of counselor should be able to help you navigate while you're engaged, get into marriage, help you navigate through marriage, et cetera, et cetera. And I think if there's an issue, we should be able to see marriage counselors. God enabled them with the wisdom, the insight, the knowledge to help us, and we should use that and to our advantage. That's my thoughts on it.
All right, thank you so much. Amataya, what do you think?
I agree. I think that we look at the Bible and we think that there is no place for therapy in there, but then it talks about the fellowship of the brethren. It talks about with the same grace that you receive when you went through something with someone else. What a therapist or a counselor is someone who has the wealth of knowledge of different situations and who is able to give you advice. What I would say is maybe, definitely find someone who is Christian, who shares the same values as you, so that they're not telling you something that is completely against your faith, right? Because obviously you're opening yourself to them and they tell you some random thing that is ungodly, then that's more harmful. So you want someone whose faith is the same as yours. Just because when it comes to emotional healing, you can get really messed up if you're getting the wrong things put in there. But you definitely need someone to talk to. You definitely, like, I really love what John said about, Adam and Eve. I'd never even seen that. But we need people to talk to. We need fellowship. We need friends. There's a friend who sticks closer than a brother. There are all these things that show that we need interaction and we need people to talk to. So there's nowhere in the Bible where God said, oh, don't talk to anyone else. God always sent people to talk to people. And that's how he builds communities. Like, why doesn't God give one person the entire revelation of the entire universe? It's because he gives you some and he gives somebody else some, so that in the unity and in the fellowship, you guys are able to see a bigger picture of God. So, but then even to take it a step further, counselors and therapists they have a different vantage point. They're not in the situation with you. So everything we'll be talking about with emotions and how to separate this emotion from that emotion, they are able to spell it out for you, because sometimes our emotions are so tangled up together that we can't see clearly. So we definitely need counselors, not just your best friend. I mean, if you have a best friend, that works too. But sometimes you've heard your best friend tell you something so many times that you can't hear it anymore, even if they're telling you the same truth. Sometimes it's until you brought that money out and spent and paid for that hour-long session, you're like, okay, I paid for this, so I'm going to get value from it. So I definitely recommend counseling and therapy.
This was an amazing session. Thank you guys so much. I definitely learned or got a lot of information from all of this. I know a lot of people too would have gotten one or two things. I'm going to thank you guys once again. Please follow them on Instagram. I'm not sure, but your Instagram name would be displayed on the screen. And also, please follow the Empowered Nation on Instagram, on YouTube, and on Facebook for more insight programs. Once again, I want to say thank you guys so much for all the knowledge, all the opinions, everything that you've done. I really say I've gotten a lot of information. If you guys have any one or two things you just want to drop out there to the world, like they should know, like definitely. Amataya, do you have anything to say?
Just like I mentioned in the middle of this, is the biggest thing I'm learning is how to manage emotion. I feel like there is something about the revelation of the Spirit of God that people think the Spirit is just wild and crazy, but that's because our spirits are wild and crazy. But there's order, there's freedom, but there's also I feel like there is something about women in this time where there is a wisdom that women have that the world needs. But I think that because women have not yet learned to master and control those emotions, we keep looking crazy instead of looking wise.
Yeah.
And so the wisdom that you have is shrouded in all the emotion and the crying and all of that. Nobody can see that there is a gem inside of it. And so my biggest thing now is trying to calm myself down by the help of the Spirit so that I can separate the wisdom from the emotion. And I think that's so important for women to get into that place, because this fight for equality that we're doing, the equality is there. We were created as equal counterparts. It is a given. We don't need to fight for it. However, we need to master our expression of it so that the value is clear. Because if men are scared to tell us when they don't like us anymore, something as simple as that, how is somebody, do you know what I mean? Like, what's that going to look like in government, in politics? What's that going to look like in the rest of the world? So we need to master our emotions, but not act like they're not there, because those emotions are valuable, but we need to be, it's like raw fire, right? We need to be able to target the fire for what you need it for. Nobody's saying turn off the fire or act like there are no emotions. You know, embrace everything that makes you a woman, but recognize that there is a purpose for it. There's a way to use it. You can turn up the heat, you can turn it down at the same time. And that is the thing that requires the most self-control, that fruit of the spirit, self-control, that it requires that mastery. And I would just encourage any woman out there to just start practicing how to not turn off your emotions, but to harness it, to get the wisdom that God put wisdom in there.
Okay, thank you so much. Jan?
Let me, if I could, I would love to speak to the singles. Wherever I go all over where I hear singles frustrated with single life and their dating pool. Oftentimes they're saying, even in the church, there are no good men or no good women. That's just a belief. I want to try to encourage singles that, as difficult as it may be, don't put your life on hold. Discover your purpose. There is a sense of fulfillment that comes when you've discovered your purpose and you're walking it and you're living in your purpose, what God designed for you to do. There's something about that. And for some reason, when you find yourself enjoying the life God gave you to enjoy, before you know it, you'll meet somebody that fits you. And I know many of us have dated quite a few people and it just haven't worked out. And if we were to be completely honest, we're frustrated. We've crying out to God and we're saying, I'm tired. I had enough. These men are all the same. These women are no good. I'm done. Leave me alone. Maybe you created me to be single. I'm tired of fixing men. God, if you wanted me to be a mechanic, you should have just said that, all sort of things. And I want to encourage you. Because there's a saying originally from Haiti that when the night is darkest, it's only an indication the day is coming. And so know that you would not be like this forever, that God is bringing people with such insight and such wisdom to you for a purpose. You're in your season of preparation and God is getting ready to do the things that he's promised you, that he has not forgotten what it is that he said to you, that all of it will come to pass, all of it will come to fruition, but you have to first go through the process. And so know that God's word will manifest, it will come to pass. You're not going to die alone and single. God's going to fulfill his words.
All right, thank you guys so much. Your handles will be displayed on the screen. So if they do want to get any more, if they do want to contact you or get your opinion on things, definitely people will be able to reach you. So once again, thank you guys. I had an amazing session. So I'm going to say that for myself. I learned a lot of things. And I really do hope that this session brings a lot of awareness to people. People are able to learn a thing or two and get insights on some things. And we'll be bringing more amazing sessions to you guys. Once again, that will be the end of this session. We're going to end it here. Until the next one, my name is Bukumi Shodipour. Don't forget to follow us on our social media platforms, DM Pod Nation, the letter DM Pod Nation on Instagram, Facebook, and on YouTube. And I will see you guys later. Bye. Bye, Mataya. Bye, John.